Howdy. Let's see if I can make that even bigger. I can. I can do this. Boom. All right. I just learned how to screen share. I'm not certain I'm going to do that tonight. But anyway, hi. It's good to see you again. Now, tonight I'm going to talk to you about Raise Your Resilience. It is a business. And if you have questions, it's right there. So I want to tell you about the business. I want to tell you a little bit about me. Not a whole lot, because guess what? On that website there, that's where all this information is. What makes me an authority to do what I do? Because you'll notice I could put all kinds of initials right there if I had them. All right, as a firefighter, I got all kinds of certifications. I've got as many, if not more, I think maybe one or two more from FEMA, including their Emergency Manager Professional Development Program. I have a lot of certifications, and listing them all is what I do have is lived experience. Oh, do I have a lot of that? I am very, very, very familiar with the symptoms that are in here of trauma. Oh, so familiar. And you name it. So I have all of the stuff in my past, developmental trauma, addictions, so forth and so on. I also have the learned experience of healing it. And you'll see this used to say somatic trauma guide, somatic trauma healing guide. And that's what I do. And there's a reason I use that word guide, because the tool that we use here at Raise Your Resilience primarily is in you. It's not in me. I'm not the healer. You are. I show you, and I could have used the word mentor, or I show you how to use these tools. All right. And why I think the program's better. Because at Raise Your Resilience, we use better tools, we have a better focus, and that gives us the best outcome. So when I say we have better tools, I am going to put one more slide up, and that would be this one. Yeah, that's the right one. All right. Better tools. Tool number one. You see this here? The far right side. This tool is built right in. Built right into your body. And that's what I teach people how to use. Now, the reason I say guide is because if you wanted to go out into the wilderness and you didn't have a guide, and you didn't have either the right equipment or good equipment, the odds of you having a successful trip that you look back at with fondness would not be very good. You would not have fond memories of that if you survived it. Yeah. I learned, and there's an interesting thing about why, when people get lost, they walk in circles. Physical Intelligence by, I think it's Dr. Scott. Anyway, he likes to hike in the mountains, but he's learned some of this stuff. Anyway, so there's better tools. This is the best one because this process is autonomic. All of this is autonomic. All of this is built into us. So that's the primary tool. And then there are others, because we have things that happen regarding our emotions. So we use tools for that, and so forth and so on. This one is the big one right here. Now, when I say better tools, that's what I mean. That is the foundation, because you didn't talk your way from here to here or to here. That never happened. You didn't get talked into it. That autonomically happen the minute your midbrain perceived there was a threat. That's the way this autonomic nervous system works. Okay, now storytelling is how humans have existed for a long, long time, and that's not to say that it's not important. All I'm saying is that the healing process does not require talking. All right, it doesn't even require remembering. So we have better tools, better focus. All right, I've shared this before. These are your trauma symptoms that go down this way because the healing process gets rid of the symptoms. Meanwhile, the life signs do this, and that's where we focus. That's what we focus on. So yeah, the program is a 12-month program, and you'll see if you go to the website, it explains all this. It explains the business opportunity, why I'm doing what I'm doing. I may get into that, I may not, but when you're using the Raise Your Resilience Toolbox program to heal, we have better tools, and kind of like it's like this, except we wouldn't have all this other screens in the. It would be this, except to be a Zoom call on that StreamYard, so all this other stuff would be missing. All right, so that's how this works. You can do this no matter where you live, with me, no matter where I am, and actually it wouldn't matter where you are. We could do this both traveling. That's a beautiful thing. There's benefit to being in person. There's no doubt about that. But for most of my international clients, I have yet to have that become an issue, that I'm not there. I just think there's some benefit to it. And all you really need is some space where you can lay down. Now, it'd be nice, if you could do like a snow angel. Lay down on the ground, spread your feet out, spread your arms out, and move them. If that whole area were clear, that would be optimal. Not necessary, optimal. I have worked with tighter spaces than that. Really, it's that easy. And we don't focus on the trauma symptoms. We don't focus on the trauma stories. We focus on what's emerging. So if I'm looking at what's emerging rather than the stuff that I've lived with all of my life, what is that training my brain to do? Because where the brain fires, it will wire. Okay, that's how that works. I start to change the focus because it does several things. One is it's rewiring, but as my behavior begins to change, things then take a positive bend. Because when you're racked up with trauma symptoms, I guarantee you there's going to be some negative bend. And I probably don't have to tell you this, do I? I think maybe next week I'll do a post just on the symptoms I've experienced in my lifetime. Because this is where the rubber meets the road. You and I are tired. We're tired. Are tired of living with the shit. I had all of this stuff. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't have a name for it until all of this spun out of control. And I don't know, it's a movie with Loki and the Hulk. I don't know which one it is, one of the Avenger movies, but the Hulk picks up Loki and bam, bam, bam. Mind you, Loki's immortal, but he smashes the floor up using Loki as the maul. Bam, 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 bam. And he throws him in a corner. And that's what life did to me. I'm sure that there are plenty of you who can relate to that, who have felt that way, who have had your lives just completely, and sometimes it can happen just as quick as the Hulk was smashing Loki. For me, I used the illustration. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. They just kept going in, And I just kept doing this kind of thing and folding, and finally it was one straw too many, and I folded. So here I was living with all this stuff, and I didn't know what any of it was or why. And I had to unpack that stuff when I was a complete zombie. So thankfully, I got some help. So when we focus, we don't focus on this stuff. Oh, we're also familiar with this stuff. We have shame around some of the stuff that we've done when we're in the grip of the behaviors of trauma. Because all of that stuff that we did is us trying to be loved, to be accepted, to do what's right. And for some odd reason, it just keeps coming out wrong. And so instead of focusing on that stuff, which we are very familiar, in fact, we've probably identified with some of the stuff and called it, this is the way I am. Oh no, it doesn't have to be. If you want to be better, if you want to be different, that's why I say best outcome. It's called freedom. Freedom from all of this crap. Freedom in the beliefs, freedom in the emotions, freedom in your own body, freedom in relationships. Hello? Freedom in spirituality, freedom from religion. Yeah, the freedom is never ending. That's a cool thing. So we have better tools, we have a better focus, and we get the best outcome. Now, I don't have an acceptable picture for that per se. So okay, so what is my... Okay, that wasn't it either. All right, so I got something that's still trapped here. So I will do that. Thank you. Okay, button somewhere. In any event, this is what makes the program a better program. So when you're working with Raise Your Resilience, this is okay, so we take this experience, a year-long program. There's a variety of modules that we go through that cover different areas of life, and it's never about focusing on the events. You will learn to tell those stories when you can. You don't have to, and that's cool. I didn't either. And will you be healed at the end of a year? No, you will not. Not likely. But you know what you'll know how to do? You'll know how to get through the wilderness all by yourself. Because when these things come up in life, you will have the tools to deal with them. You will know how to use them, because that's what we do in Raise Your Resilience. We teach you how to use tools. And you know, that's kind of what a journeyman does, and that's kind of the idea. And so when other people want to come on board, they get trained, and we have clinic. Anyway, so I'll tell you about my training, because I basically copied it. I'll tell you a little bit of my story here. Actually, we got into this because of, I already just mentioned my own personal crash and burn. And then the recuperation process. So I spent a little time training, and it took us months to even figure out what I was dealing with. And the biggest story is, you know, the about page on Raise Your Resilience. Excuse me. And so the short form is, we started to figure some of this stuff out, and I was still part of the fire department. I said, I want to give the guys some tools. The guy, I'll say guys and gals, even though I don't think we had any at the time. Anyway, so I wanted to give my fellow firefighters and then police, and we're starting with the dispatcher, the police, EMTs, paramedics, flight crews, all the way down to the coroner, a tool to work with. Because at the time, okay, so this was the desire. We didn't know how to do this. And then we ran into, well, we're still trying to figure out what happened to me. And then we ran into Dr. Scare, who introduced us to the concept of trauma, which was not what an EMT thinks of. And then that led to Dr. Levine, Dr. Peter Levine, and his books, which to me are still some of the better foundational books, and took some somatic experience training and was completely underwhelmed by it. I said, now, this is not going to work to teach other firefighters. And so we got back on the keyboard, still punching in words and new words, and however, it was Dr. Peter Levine in this book, Healing Trauma, his other book, Waking the Tiger, and his other book, In an Unspoken Voice, where he talks about tremoring. Oh, if I count, I think the one chapter 16 times, I think. If I wanted to include all of the variations of tremoring that he used, 23 times. One chapter alone. Not counting what's in here, and not counting in what's in Waking the Tiger. So that was, okay, I felt like, well, we got something. We're onto something here. What is this stuff? And so, let me point something out here. Add to the stage. This is, in terms of the evolutionary history of this autonomic nervous system, this is mammalian. This is mammalian. The very first creatures were confined to this, freeze. That would be reptilian, they call that. And so we have this experience, and humans and some animals will move from social engagement to fight flight to freeze. So this has been stacked up. It has different pathways in the nervous system. Okay, cool. And so what we were looking for was a way to equip firefighters and emergency responders to have this tool, to have this ability. And so we then were introduced to Dr. Berselli, Dr. David Berselli, who teaches TRE. And that was where we stayed, because we finally found something that was something we could teach to others. I could teach it to groups, and that's how TRE is taught. Now, I had an issue with that eventually. I didn't at first. I taught all kinds of groups. I taught them for years. Well over 200 people attended. And we taught those people how to tremor very successfully. Had some great testimonies. People with essential tremor, hadn't slept for 14 years. The beat goes on and on and on. And so, okay, cool, we were onto something. But you know what my experience was? Wasn't that. I had two different providers, and why? Because I liked TRE and what it was doing to me so much, I chose the certification path, which is a 2-year process. And I had to learn how to teach individuals first and then groups. And then we had to do, because there's two of us, she had to learn how to do groups, I had to learn how to do groups. And then we did them together. So we were really well trained. And all of our clinical stuff, which was almost every other week, was 100% supervised. When you're done, you sent the video, the provider would look over it, and then you had to talk about it. Ooh, wow. Okay, and my second provider was, guess what? I was with a provider doing weekly sessions for a year, and I'm going to say 5 weeks. I think it's in that neighborhood. And that does not fit the TRE model. And so as time went on, I began to realize that what I was dealing with was not just I mean, how vague can trauma be? It's pretty damn vague. And then all of a sudden I learned about PTSD. Is what's that? Okay, well, I had to learn what PTSD was. I realized, oh, I've got PTSD. And then I'm reading Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score. And guess what? He talks about something there called the ACE test. I was like, never heard of it. Go look it up. Okay, take the ACE test, thinking I'm fine. Nope, I'm not fine. If you have an ACE score at all, you have certain odds of having issues. And I'm not going to quote them all, but these are some of the things that Bessel van der Kolk talks about in his book. And then I started following Dr. Vincent Felitti, who invented the ACE test based on his experience in an obesity clinic, so forth, so on. I mean, all of these dots started to come together. That's what I realized, that what I was dealing with was because I had an ACE score, was not just PTSD. And all of a sudden it put all my addictions in perspective. It put all of my other behaviors and my trauma responses, my dissociations, how I got into this, and this. Whoa. Boy, and you know what? The police officers I've helped, they have the highest ACE scores. I find that fascinating. A little bit concerning, but fascinating. Anyway, all of this stuff finally dovetails, and I take this training, and it suddenly occurred to me, wait a minute, I can't continue, because if you showed me how to do this 2 or 3 times, I mean, I could show you the exercises and how to do them, and then in a short while, you could probably show me the exercises, and even if you needed them, you could lay down, start tremoring, and I would say, okay, fly, little birdie. That is not how this works. When it's something like developmental trauma, I finally realized I didn't do that. I think that's a gross disservice, because you'll run into things that and yeah, I can tell you stories, because I hear this all the time, that working with your body, working with things that arise from your body, learning how to self-regulate, that is not that's like taking your book out into the woods. How to start a fire. Pull out your striker rod. What? I got a lighter. And it's windy, and it's cold, and it feels like it's going to start raining. And you just got a bunch of twigs there. There's a problem. And then your little book's going to say, make a shelter. And the next thing you know, you've got everything that you brought with you on. You did manage to bring a space blanket, and that's wrapped around you. And you didn't get anything to eat. You're cold. Now you're under a tree because you're trying to stay dry. Yeah. You think you're going to go back in the woods again? No. It's better to live in the trauma than it is to try to do that kind of thing. Now, believe it or not, Peter Levine says it's easier to prevent trauma, possibility, than it is to heal it. And he's the same guy who says that trauma is not a life sentence. It's not. Healing it is not a life sentence. Healing trauma does not have to be a life sentence. Better tools, better focus, best outcome. You get healed. The symptoms go away. Go away. Triggers go away. Yeah, go away. And I know people argue with that, but that's what it means to be healed. I break my arm. I'm blocking it. Anyway, break my arm. Oh, ooh, yeah. The doctor got to pull on it. I'm screaming, crying like a baby. Sets it, puts a cast on it. Years later, guess what? Am I walking around like this because, don't touch my arm? No. Do I forget that it happened? No. Yeah, I broke my arm once because 8 of us are standing there. Yeah, we all broke our arm. In some sense, that's exactly what healing trauma is like. No different. Really no different. The symptoms are gone. so forth and so on. Okay. We have these better tools, we have better outcomes. Now, with, like I was saying, with Dr. Berselli's thing, he teaches you, you know, you can show it back and then you're on your own. And I don't think that's effective. I don't think that's optimal for the breadth of things in which you could experience triggers. And so having a guide who's with you longer, you get to learn how to do all kinds of cool little tricks, how to make great coffee out in the woods just by heating water, how to make a great stove, how to use a striker rod. Oh my God, that's a spark. That's 3,000 degrees. Yeah. You get to learn how to do that. Uh-oh, here comes the rain. Well, okay, maybe you just got a tarp and some stuff you're going to throw on the ground. Pine boughs are perfect. Okay, and then your sleeping bag, which compresses really nicely. So, some paracord, a good sharp knife. You got it all tied up because you've learned how to tie knots. You've learned how to make the water run off. Okay, it might, come underneath, so you get a little bit of drainage. That's why the pine boughs. All right, so there's various ways and things that you learn so that when you're done with the guide, it does not matter what comes your way, you will be able to deal with it all on your own. And that's when the guide says, that's what happened to me. You don't need me anymore. We're done. You're thinking, how expensive is that? Well, it's on the website. It's less than you think. Surprisingly so. And that's you'll see the business vision, what I want to do with this. One thing that is, I used to say that the average cost of therapy is $85 a session. Now, finding a therapist is hard. If you're on insurance, you got to find one that's in your network that even maybe doesn't even know what the hell trauma is. And so I looked up just recently what the average cost of trauma is now, trauma therapy. And just plain old therapy is, well, this article I saw, $100 to $200 a session. I'm not even near 100. I have a reason for that. It's on there. All right. My whole business vision is on there because really what I want to do, and I want to franchise this. So you get trained. You'll learn everything essentially that I've learned, but you know what you're going to have? Your own specific little, I'm going to call it niche. You have an approach to this that I will never have. So let's say you live in Atlanta. Okay, cool. Guess what? I handle the marketing, so it's franchise. There's all kinds of legal stuff around that. And I help pay for the advertising, all that kind of thing. You've got the training. I show you how to do all this kind of thing. But you've got the training. Now you're capable of doing this. And the idea is to turn this into a business. And then that could be, I could have a lot of people just in one location. And I'm going to need people to manage those. Eventually, I'm going to need a vice president here who's handling advertising all over the country. I'm going to need people in finances and communications, training, you name it. It's going to be big. That's the idea. I want to do, and here's the vision of Raise Your Resilience, because this is what Dr. Berselli said to me. He said, you want to change the world? And I said, yes. And he said, heal trauma. And so I did. I set up my business, which is now a decade. All right, a decade old. And so we were doing the TRE thing. Like I said, I've taught all kinds of workshops under the old model. I found a lot of people, not doing that anymore, this kind of thing after, they just, I forgot how to do the exercises, blah, blah, blah. Because there was no container. that was built with, okay, little bird, fly. And that is not how human life works. When you need to learn something, a guide doesn't just say, oh, here, take the book. Here's a tent. Here's this, that, and the other thing. Here's a canoe. Pushes you off the dock. See ya. Doesn't tell you what to do if your canoe ever swamps. Doesn't tell you anything. That's not how a guide does that. The guide picks all the right gear. And he says, okay, you're on the front. Here's how you paddle the canoe. All right? Now, when I say switch, I want you to switch. Here's what happens when you hit fast water. Oh, what that, yike. That's an adrenaline rush. Anyway, the guide stays with you. The guide shows you how to set up tents when there's no place to drive a stake. Oh, you know what the stakes are good for? When you do find a spot, tick, 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 hook sides up. Put a pot on there. Put your little stove underneath. I mean, a hockey puck stove, or not a hockey puck, a coffee puck stove. Yeah, you heard that right. And then you can boil your water because that thing's going to burn for 45 minutes. It'll actually boil your water. You can at least make coffee, if not some freeze-dried stuff. Anyway, that's what a guide shows you how to do. And at first you're going, oh, wow, this is so cool. And then you have to do it yourself. Because he might just say, you do it. I'm going to watch. And he's going, tell you what, here's the secret. Do this instead. You forgot all the knots. So now your hands are tying the knots. And now, anyway, you get the point, I'm sure. This is what it means to, in the Raise Your Resilience Toolbox program, we have better tools, we have better focus, and we have best outcomes. And I want this to be, at least at this point, national. I've had some international clients, quite a few of them. Okay, I'm not going to say no to it, but I want to start here nationally. Helping people heal their trauma. And I painted that picture yesterday. That replay will be coming up. But this is what it means to work with Raise Your Resilience. It means to heal trauma. And then it means to heal and change the systems that create it. I won't expand on that right now. I think some of you see where that's going. So if you have questions, right there, you can ask them. Hope to hear from you. If this piques your curiosity, let's have a discussion about that. Okay? Because I cannot do this alone. I can work one-on-one, and that's fine. I've got a few slots right now that are available, but I cannot fulfill the vision of changing this world by myself. No desire to do that. I need you. And I need your strengths. I need your uniqueness, which is one of those things that comes out because we have complete focus. The unique you will emerge. And we need that to heal this world. All right. Thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. I will see you tomorrow night. Bye.